We wanted to do this so people wouldn't have to always stare and take pictures, because we don't like when they take pictures.
Abby and Britney Hensel were born with a single body and two heads, a rare form of conjoined twins known as diphalic parapagus. Despite the odds stacked against them, they've lived extraordinary lives, defying expectations at every turn. From their first TV appearance at age 6 to becoming beloved teachers, their story is filled with resilience, determination, and the unique bond they share. But what happens when one twin falls in love and gets married while the other remains by her side? Abby and Britney Hensel are not your typical twins, they're conjoined twins, meaning they share one body but have two heads. It's not a sight you see every day, and their story is as mind-blowing as it is inspiring. The scientific term for their condition is diphalic parapagus. It's an incredibly rare form of conjoined twinning where they each have their own brain, but they share a single body. But what makes it even more incredible is how Abby and Britney have learned to live not as one person but as two. Think about it, two brains, two personalities, but only one body to work with. It's hard enough for most people to coordinate their own movements, but Abby and Britney have been mastering this since birth. Abby, who controls the right side, is more practical and loves to plan. Britney, who controls the left side, is a bit more relaxed and easygoing. And yet, they've managed to sync their movement so perfectly that they make it look effortless. It wasn't always this smooth, though. You could imagine the learning curve as babies. Each twin had control over half of their body, Abby the right arm and leg, Britney the left. Simple things like crawling, walking, and even picking up toys had to be learned in a way most of us could never even imagine. It wasn't just about mastering their own coordination but figuring out how to work together in total harmony. For them, this was just their life, but for those of us watching, it was nothing short of extraordinary. Their story first caught the world's attention in the 1990s when they appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show. They were only 6 years old, but even back then, it was clear they were something special. There they were, these tiny, bright-eyed girls smiling and laughing, their personalities just shone through. You could see it right away, Abby was the more serious one, and Britney was the one to crack a joke. It was impossible not to be charmed by them. After Oprah, they didn't disappear into obscurity. No, Abby and Britney became something of a public phenomenon. Documentaries were made about them, and in 2012, they even had their own reality show called Abby and Britney. This show gave people a close-up look at how the twins handled everyday life, and let me tell you, it was fascinating. You see, Abby and Britney never let their condition slow them down. They went to school, made friends, played sports, and yes, shockingly, they learned to drive. Let's talk about that for a minute. How do you even drive when you've got two people sharing one body? The answer: teamwork. Abby takes control of the pedals and the gear shift, while Britney manages the turn signals and lights. You think it would be impossible, but no, they passed their driving test and each got their own driver's license. Their lives are filled with moments like that, moments where they seem to defy the odds just by being themselves. One of the coolest parts of their story is how they became elementary school teachers. Picture being a 5th grader and walking into class to find not just one teacher but two in a single body. That's Abby and Britney. They're teaching math and helping to shape the minds of young kids, all while navigating life with this unique setup. Their students don't see them as the conjoined twins, they see them as Miss Hensel, two people who are passionate about teaching and making a difference, but just because they share a body doesn't mean they agree on everything. They've got their own preferences, their own ideas about life, and when they disagree, they handle it like any other siblings. Sometimes they'll flip a coin to make a decision, other times, they'll bargain with each other until they reach some kind of compromise. It's a delicate balance, but they've made it work for over 30 years now. Their bond is something truly special, not just because they're physically connected but because they've learned how to support each other in every possible way. Of course, their unique situation comes with its fair share of challenges. Abby and Britney share most of their organs, but their bodies don't always react the same way to things. For example, Abby tends to overheat more easily than Britney. There was this one scene on their show where Abby described how she could feel a burning heat down one side of her leg while Britney was totally unfazed. It's like their bodies are in constant negotiation with each other, adapting to whatever situation comes their way. They've always been open about the difficulties, but what's really inspiring is they don't want to be seen just as a source of inspiration because of their condition. Abby and Britney are adamant that they want to be recognized for what they do, not just how they were born. They want people to see their accomplishments, their education, their teaching careers, the way they've navigated life on their terms. It's a powerful message that goes beyond the physicality of being conjoined. It's about showing the world that no matter what circumstances you're born into, you can carve out your own path. Now their birth story, that was a shocker. Patty and Mike Hensel, their parents, were expecting one baby. Every ultrasound, every checkup showed nothing unusual. So when Patty went into labor, they were ready to welcome a healthy baby into the world. But instead, they got two. Can you even imagine it? Must have been a jaw-dropping moment in that delivery room, one body, two heads. Nobody saw it coming. And yet, as soon as Abby and Brittany were born, their parents didn't falter, they embraced the challenge. Shocked, absolutely. But ready to take on whatever came next. Patty, being a nurse, understood the gravity of the situation right away. Conjoined twins are incredibly rare, and the survival rate isn't high. Many don't make it past birth due to complications. But Abby and Brittany were different. They were strong from the moment they took their first breath. They were fighters. The doctors explained that the girls had dicephalous parapagus, meaning they had two heads but shared one body. It wasn't just a rare condition, it was practically unheard of. But despite sharing critical organs like a colon and reproductive system, Abby and Britney Hensel were healthy and stable. It was nothing short of a miracle. Yet, there was something else that made them even more unique. Abby and Brittany weren't just born with two heads and one body, they also had a third arm positioned awkwardly between their necks. This extra arm had its own shoulder blade but wasn't functional. The doctors faced a tough decision: should they leave it or try to remove it? After some serious consideration, they decided the arm needed to go. The surgery was delicate, but in the end, it was successful. The third arm was removed, leaving only a small shoulder blade behind as a reminder of what once was. Now Abby and Brittany had just two arms. Abby controlled the right one, Brittany the left. This raised a whole new challenge. Every time they moved, they had to coordinate perfectly, like a constant duet. When Abby wanted to reach for something, Brittany had to instinctively know how to adjust her side of the body. It's something the rest of us don't even think about. Our brains just tell our bodies what to do, but for Abby and Brittany, it's an ongoing conversation between two minds, each one controlling half of their body. Now imagine them playing sports, throwing a ball, dribbling a basketball, or even swimming. These are all activities that require complete coordination. Yet, Abby and Brittany excelled at them. They learned to move in perfect harmony. Even the smallest things, like brushing their teeth, required that kind of teamwork. It became second nature to them. But the differences between them went deeper than just who controlled which side physically. They weren't perfectly symmetrical. Abby is taller than Brittany by a few inches. Abby stands at about 5 feet 2 inches while Brittany is around 4 feet 10 inches. This height difference affects how they walk. Brittany's right leg is slightly shorter than Abby's, which means she often has to walk on her tiptoes just to keep up with her sister. As a result, Brittany's right calf is more developed than Abby's. Another thing that sets them apart is how they experience the world physically. Their sense of touch is divided right down the middle. Abby feels everything on her right side, while Brittany feels on her left. There's a small overlap in the middle of their body, but for the most part, it's like an invisible line runs through them. Even something as simple as pain follows this division. If Abby gets a stomach ache, Brittany feels it too, but only on her side. It's hard to wrap your mind around, right? The way they're connected isn't just physical, it's deeply sensory. But they've had to deal with more than just the everyday challenges of being conjoined. When they were 12 years old, Abby and Brittany were faced with a serious medical hurdle: scoliosis. Their spine had started to curve, which was a concern given their shared chest and organs. Doctors knew they had to act. They performed a major surgery to not only correct the scoliosis but also expand their chest cavity, giving their shared organs more room to grow as they aged. It was a complex surgery, but Abby and Brittany took it in stride. As they got older, Abby and Brittany graduated from high school in 2008. They were ready for the next chapter of their lives, and like many teenagers, that meant college. They enrolled at Bethel University in Minnesota, where they pursued degrees in education. Initially, they considered studying different concentrations. Abby had a natural inclination for math and science, while Brittany was more drawn to language arts. But they quickly realized that splitting their coursework like that would be overwhelming. So they decided to focus on a shared concentration, which allowed them to take classes together and support each other along the way. In 2012, the twins graduated with Bachelor of Arts degrees in education. It was a massive achievement for them, not just because of the usual challenges of college, but because they had done it as a team. Abby and Brittany have always found ways to express their individuality even though they share a body. Take their clothing, for example. A seamstress makes many of their outfits, ensuring that each twin can show off her own style. Sometimes the clothes have two separate necklines so they can wear different tops in one outfit. It's a small detail, but it matters to them. It's one way they show the world that while they share a body, they're still two very different people. Their preferences go beyond clothes too. When it comes to meals, they don't always eat the same things. If Abby wants one dish and Brittany wants something different, they'll prepare two separate plates. But they're also practical. When it's easier, they'll share a meal, striking a balance between their individual tastes and the realities of sharing a digestive system. Early on, there were questions about whether Abby and Brittany could or should be separated. The doctors were open with their parents. They said that it might be possible to separate the twins at some point, but it would come with significant risks. There was a real chance that one or both of them might not survive the surgery. Even if they did, the quality of their lives afterward would likely be limited. Mike and Patty Hensel made a choice. They decided not to separate their daughters. It wasn't a choice made lightly, but it was the right one for their family. For Abby and Brittany, that decision shaped their entire lives, and as they grew older, they embraced it. In fact, when they were asked about it later in life, they said they wouldn't have wanted to be separated anyway. In that 2007 documentary, Extraordinary People, the twins who share a body, Abby and Brittany, were clear they wouldn't have wanted to be separated. Staying together meant they could live life to the fullest. They could play sports, travel, meet new people, and live life just like any other young women. Over the years, their bond only grew stronger. It's almost like they can read each other's minds. Seriously, they can finish each other's sentences without even thinking about it. One might start typing an email, and the other will jump in and complete it no problem. It's as if their brains are operating in perfect sync, a connection that's more than just physical. But don't get it twisted, they're still individuals with their own minds. If they disagree on something, they make sure you know whose opinion is whose. You'll hear them say, Abby says, or Brittany says, keeping their individual voices distinct. And while their lives have always fascinated the public, they've managed to keep a pretty low profile. They're not out there sharing every moment of their lives on social media. In fact, their social accounts are private, and they post rarely, if ever. Still, the curiosity surrounding them has never faded. Abby, especially, has spoken about how frustrating it is when people stare or, worse, sneak photos without asking. Back in that 2007 documentary, Abby didn't hold back. She hates it when people snap photos in public without permission. They'll call you out on it too, making sure you feel every bit of the awkwardness if you're caught. And honestly, who could blame them? It's not just the public that's had to learn boundaries growing up. There were always doctors wanting to poke, prod, and study them. Their parents weren't having it. Mike and Patty made sure that their daughters weren't treated like some kind of medical experiment. They wanted Abby and Brittany to have as normal a life as possible. The twins hated doctors' visits, they were the worst. You can just imagine how exhausting it would be constantly feeling like you're being scrutinized just because of how you were born. But the real jaw-dropper came in 2021. Abby got married. Yep, Abby Hensel tied the knot with Josh Bowling, a nurse and decorated Army veteran. The news didn't really hit the public until 2024, and when it did, the questions started pouring in. How does marriage work for conjoined twins? What does it mean for Brittany? But here's the thing, Abby and Brittany have always navigated life their way, and marriage was no different for Abby. It wasn't just about gaining a husband, she also became a stepmom to Josh's 8-year-old daughter, Isabella, from his previous marriage. It was a quiet, private ceremony and the start of a new chapter for their family. People couldn't help but wonder how this marriage affected Brittany. Would she feel left out? What would their bond look like now that Abby was sharing her life with someone else? But those who know them understand that their connection isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's grown stronger. The public got a glimpse of Abby and Josh's life when some videos from the wedding surfaced online. One clip in particular captured Abby and Josh sharing their first dance to Matt Simon's song, Lose Control. Watching them, it was clear this was a new beginning, not just for Abby but for their entire family. Abby has embraced her new role as a stepmom, something both she and Brittany had always dreamed about back when they were 16. Brittany even said she wanted to be a mom someday. They didn't have all the answers back then, but the dream was always there. However, life isn't all smooth sailing. In 2023, Josh's ex-wife, Annika, filed a paternity suit that brought even more public attention to Abby's marriage. It was one of those moments that made headlines for all the wrong reasons, but Abby and Britt, in true form, didn't let it get them down. They stayed resilient, just like they always have. They even posted a few videos on TikTok to hit back at critics and trolls who had something to say about their private lives. No matter what, these two have a way of handling public scrutiny with grace and a little bit of sass when needed. Throughout it all, Abby and Brittany have continued living life on their terms. Their milestones might seem impossible to most, but for them, they're just living their lives. They're still in the classroom teaching 5th grade, making a difference in their students' lives. Abby and Brittany's lives have always been a testament to what's possible when you refuse to be limited by the expectations of others. They've shown the world that being conjoined doesn't stop them from living full, meaningful lives. And now, with Abby taking on new roles as a wife and stepmom, they continue to explore what it means to be individuals within their shared existence. Their bond is unbreakable, their resilience undeniable, and their story continues to evolve in ways that no one could have predicted. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep following the incredible journey of Abby and Britney Hensel, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Thanks for watching.